On the afternoon of 12th December 2022, at approximately 15:17 New Zealand time, uniformed Constable Summer Smith arrived at the West Auckland Police Station on Norman Kerr Drive in Kelvin Grove, Auckland. According to the station's incident log, she signed in as per routine, then at 15:24 accessed the National Intelligence Application, NIA, under her workstation login. A security audit later shows that at 15:27 she captured a screenshot of a gang member vehicle registry. Simultaneously, according to mobile device metadata, her personal phone sent a message to her associate identifying the vehicle number. What became clear only later was that this ordinary afternoon intake would become the first documented link in a corruption investigation. On 1st March 2022, Summer Smith formally commenced training at the New Zealand Police College in Papakohai, Porirua. The campus sits on the western edge of Wellington's urban sprawl, a cluster of institutional buildings overlooking the harbour, where new recruits undergo 20 weeks of intensive preparation for operational policing. She was listed in the March 2022 recruit class and recorded as completing the standard course according to police college records. The training curriculum included modules on ethics, legal procedure, tactical response, and intelligence handling, all areas that would later become relevant to her case. During the afternoon muster at 14:30, the training coordinator flagged her background for familial gang associations in her probity review. But the vetting summary indicates the file was marked as complex rather than disqualifying. She acknowledged no additional relationships in her application beyond what was already documented in her family history. The probity assessment, standard procedure for all recruits, required disclosure of any connections that might compromise operational integrity or create conflicts of interest. Smith's file passed through multiple review stages at the college before being forwarded to the National Selection Panel for final approval. This initial clearance set the baseline for her posting. What remained routine at this point was about to shift. The vetting process, designed to catch precisely these risk factors before officers entered active duty, would later become the subject of intensive institutional review and policy reform recommendations. On 5th August 2022, at 09:45, Smith began her first shift at the Auckland Central Station on Wyndham Street, a busy downtown facility handling everything from petty theft to serious organized crime investigations. The station serves as a hub for several specialized units, including the Serious Organized Crime Agency and the National Integrity Unit, ironically, the very unit that would later investigate her. According to roster logs, she was assigned to a patrol unit with Senior Constable Marcus Reed, a 12-year veteran tasked with mentoring new officers through their probationary period. Reed's role included evaluating Smith's performance, decision-making, and adherence to protocol during her first year of active duty. By 12:02, she and Reed responded to a shop theft call in West Auckland, approximately 15 kilometers from the central station. After the arrest of a minor offender outside a convenience store on Great North Road, Smith sat in on an intelligence-gathering interview conducted by Reed's unit, per interview transcript 220805-INT1. The detained suspect, seeking leniency in exchange for cooperation, named several properties allegedly used to manufacture methamphetamine in the Henderson and Ranui areas. Smith observed the interview from a corner of the small interrogation room, taking notes as required for probationary documentation. At 13:17, she returned to the station, typed her report in the standard format, and exited at 13:58. Her report summary, later reviewed by investigators, made no mention of personal interest in the intelligence disclosed. Until that moment, her routine appeared unremarkable. The vehicle registry screenshot, captured the next month, would link back to this moment. Standard operating procedure required that intelligence gathered during such interviews be entered into the NIA system, information Smith would later access without authorization for purposes unrelated to any legitimate investigation. In early December 2022, on 7th December 2032, Smith attended a music festival in Auckland CBD and posted social media images referencing Weekend Unwind on her Instagram account. The festival, held at Western Springs, drew several thousand attendees for an outdoor concert featuring local and international acts. The event ran from late afternoon into the evening, with multiple stages and extensive security presence. She took with her a small Ziploc packet of cocaine, according to the later forensic seizure of her phone image metadata. The packet image was time-stamped 2045, captured in what appeared to be a bathroom mirror selfie with the substance visible in the foreground. Meanwhile, her personal messages include a request to a gang member for drugs to party, sent via encrypted messaging application at 19:23 that same evening. The standard issue prohibition of Class A drug possession by sworn staff was ignored, a breach of the police code of conduct that applies both on and off duty. Officers are explicitly warned during training that drug use constitutes grounds for immediate dismissal and potential criminal charges. A routine weekend off-duty turned into a documented irregularity. The photo would later feature in the digital forensics timeline, providing concrete evidence of drug possession with metadata that could not be disputed. Prior to 2022, the Killer Bees motorcycle gang had been monitored by the National Integrity Unit for infiltration risks, establishing context for internal threat protocols. The gang, based primarily in South Auckland, with chapters spreading into West Auckland, had a documented history of seeking intelligence from within law enforcement agencies. Intelligence reports from 2019 through 2021 had flagged the organization as a priority concern for insider threat monitoring, with several attempted recruitments of police staff documented in classified briefings. On 24th April 2023, at 07:56, a covert police operation in West Auckland intercepted a shipment of approximately 265 kilograms of methamphetamine concealed inside a shipping container at a commercial property on Rosebank Road. The operation was led by Detective Inspector Kelly Matthews of the Serious Organized Crime Agency, culminating weeks of surveillance and intelligence coordination across multiple jurisdictions. The raid involved over 30 officers, including members of the Armed Offenders Squad, who secured the perimeter before investigators moved in to process the scene. During the arrest of a male gang member linked to Killer Bees, his mobile phone was seized, according to standard evidence collection protocol, and produced a message chain from Smith, dated 27th of December 2022 at 22:12. Just wanted to make sure you're not linked in with them or anything. His name's redacted. He was giving intel at work. Names of some cookhouses out west. That message was logged in Digital Forensics Report DF23041. The reference to intel at work immediately raised red flags for investigators reviewing the seized device. The message triggered the initial inquiry into Smith's unauthorized disclosure of intelligence. Investigative teams were assembled that same afternoon in a secure conference room at the Auckland Central Station. What appeared at first a significant gang bust became a corruption investigation. Detective Inspector Matthews immediately contacted the National Integrity Unit, initiating a parallel investigation that would run alongside the drug trafficking case. The intersection of organized crime enforcement and internal corruption created jurisdictional complexity that required careful coordination between multiple agencies. By late afternoon, a case file had been opened under restricted access protocols, with only senior investigators authorized to view the materials. The drug bust, while successful, had inadvertently exposed a far more troubling problem within the organization itself. On 3 September 2023 at 10:14, the National Integrity Unit executed a formal interview with Summer Smith at the Auckland Central Station, conducted by senior investigator Leila Gonson in interview room 3 and recorded in transcript NIU Inter 03 Waharoa 2023. Gonson, a former detective with 15 years' experience in internal investigations, led the questioning while a second investigator documented responses and monitored recording equipment. Smith had been notified of the interview 3 days earlier and advised of her right to legal representation, though she chose to attend without a lawyer present. Smith admitted she had begun a relationship with a man who identified as a member of Killer Bees via the Tinder dating app in 2021, prior to her recruitment. The relationship had developed over several months before she applied to the police college, evolving from casual dating to a more serious involvement. She stated, "I knew he was a bit of a bad boy. It was definitely stupid." When pressed about disclosure requirements during her application process, Smith acknowledged she had not mentioned the relationship in her probity declaration, claiming she thought it had ended before the application deadline. The admission contradicted her recruitment disclosure. The interview pivoted the investigation from intelligence leak to potential insider threat with deliberate concealment from the outset. Internal affairs proceedings were activated under Section 12 of the Police Code of Conduct, which governs professional standards and integrity expectations. The document chain of custody had shifted from a single message to a pattern of concealment that predated her employment and suggested planning rather than opportunistic misconduct. Gonson's report, filed that evening at 18:47, recommended escalation to criminal investigation status. The threshold had been crossed from administrative misconduct to potential criminal charges under the Crimes Act and Secret Commissions Act. On 15th September 2023, at 16:33, forensic computing specialists from the National Integrity Unit extracted metadata from Smith's police workstation login at the Auckland Central Station. The extraction process, conducted using forensic imaging software that preserves evidence integrity while creating a complete mirror of digital activity, took approximately 4 hours to complete. 2 specialists worked in tandem, one operating the extraction tools while the other documented the chain of custody. They found that on 12 December 2022, at 15:27, the NIA system captured screenshot IMG NIA 2015-27 JPG, linked to her user ID, designated C. Smith 2008. That screenshot was sent to her personal phone at 15:29, as confirmed by Mobile Forensics Report MF230915. The 2-minute gap between capture and transmission suggested deliberate action rather than accidental access or routine work activity. The device log also showed unsanctioned queries into gang member vehicle lists at 15:26 and 15:28, indicating she had navigated through multiple screens of restricted data. Each query left a digital footprint in the system's audit trail, creating a time-stamped record of every screen accessed. Investigators flagged this as unauthorized access of official information under Section 252 of the Crimes Act. What had looked like a casual message now stood as a documented probe into classified data. The forensic timeline showed a clear pattern: access the system, capture the information, transmit to external device, all within a focused 3-minute window. What seemed routine on the surface had already begun to unravel in the data. Standard NIA protocols required all access be logged, and any screenshots to trigger automatic security alerts, alerts that had been generated but not actioned at the time due to system monitoring backlogs. The failure to respond to these alerts in real time represented another gap in security procedures that would later be addressed in policy recommendations. On 12 October 2023, at 09:05, the National Integrity Unit subpoenaed messages and device history from the accused gang member's phone, which remained in evidence custody following his April arrest on drug trafficking charges. The extraction process revealed a Samsung Galaxy device with encrypted messaging applications that required specialist decryption techniques approved by court order. Forensic analysts worked for 2 days to bypass security protocols while maintaining evidence integrity. The extracted chain included 34 messages exchanged between the gang member and Smith from November 2022 through April 2023, creating a communications timeline that spanned 5 months and showed sustained contact. Among them, here's the list of all the cars and motorcycles linked to you, 20th January 2023, 21:47. This text message corresponded to a screenshot Smith admitted sending from the NIA vehicle registry, as stated in her NIU statement on 3 September. The timing, content, and metadata matched precisely across multiple verification points. The accumulation of message exchanges, screenshot logs, and police system access created a nexus of evidence that formed the core of the prosecution case. It showed a pattern of unauthorized disclosure extending beyond a single incident or momentary lapse in judgment. Investigators documented each message against corresponding NIA access logs, building a timeline that demonstrated repeated breaches over multiple months. The pattern was unmistakable. Smith would access restricted information during work hours, then transmit summaries or screenshots to her associate within minutes or hours of obtaining the data. In several instances, the gang member explicitly requested specific information, which Smith then retrieved during her next shift. The methodical documentation transformed scattered digital fragments into a coherent narrative of systematic intelligence compromise. For prosecutors, this pattern evidence demonstrated intent rather than negligence, elevating the seriousness of the charges and strengthening the likelihood of conviction at trial. On 6 November 2023, at 14:22, forensic toxicologist Dr. Peter Chan reported that the Ziploc bag photo from Smith's phone, originally captured 20th December 2022 at 20:45, contained trace amounts of cocaine confirmed via image comparison and device metadata, chain of custody document FC23-1106. Dr. Chan's analysis relied on enhanced digital forensic techniques that could identify drug residue visible in high-resolution smartphone photography through pixel-level examination and comparison with known substance profiles. The report concluded, image metadata and chemical residue photo correspond to Class A drug possession. The crystalline structure visible in the photograph matched known cocaine characteristics in terms of color, texture, and particle distribution, and the metadata confirmed the image had not been altered, edited, or downloaded from external sources. XIF data embedded in the file showed the photo was taken with Smith's personal iPhone at the specified date and time. The juxtaposition of drug possession evidence and intelligence leak evidence added disciplinary weight to the investigation and complicated Smith's position significantly. The internal investigation expanded scope from data leak to potential misconduct at large, encompassing both corruption and drug violations under separate sections of criminal law. For prosecutors, the drug evidence provided additional leverage during plea negotiations and demonstrated a broader pattern of disregard for professional standards and legal obligations. Dr. Chan's report submitted to the Crown Solicitor's Office on 8th November, would become a key component of the eventual guilty plea negotiations. The forensic certainty of the evidence, time-stamped, metadata verified, and chemically analyzed through established scientific protocols, left little room for dispute or alternative explanation. Defense counsel would later acknowledge in court filings that the drug evidence was difficult to challenge on factual grounds. On 2 January 2024 at 11:31, the District Court Registrar at Manukau District Court issued a suppression order in case file 24CR0002, restricting publication of names and locations pending hearing. The suppression order, standard in cases involving active police officers or sensitive operational matters, aimed to protect the integrity of ongoing investigations and prevent prejudicial publicity that might compromise trial fairness. On 18th January 2024, via document DP 24-0118, the Assistant Commissioner Tusha Penny testified in writing that Smith's recruitment vetting had followed standard procedure at each documented checkpoint. Yet, the application should have been escalated to the National Selection Panel due to the complexity of familial associations documented in the probity review. The vetting audit report, designated Audit Vet 23092, and completed by the Police Professional Standards Unit over 3 months of review, concluded that red flags raised by family gang links had qualified the application as complex, but were not actioned accordingly through proper escalation channels. The audit identified a systemic gap in the escalation process, where files marked complex did not automatically trigger higher-level review by senior vetting officers or external panel members. These internal audit findings sharpened institutional response beyond individual misconduct to include organizational accountability. The investigative timeline now included organizational review, recommendations for policy reform, and acknowledgement of procedural failures that had allowed Smith's recruitment to proceed without adequate scrutiny of her background. The case had evolved from individual corruption to systemic examination of recruitment protocols. The audit's 47 recommendations included mandatory escalation triggers, enhanced background check procedures, and ongoing monitoring of officers with identified risk factors during probationary periods. On 12 February 2024, at 8:08:45, Detective Inspector Kelly Matthews submitted investigation file INV 240212 to the Crown Solicitor's Office in Auckland, a comprehensive compilation of evidence spanning 247 pages with 83 exhibits attached. The file detailed 12 separate unauthorized NIA queries attributed to Smith between December 2022 and March 2023, each documented with access logs, timestamps, screen capture evidence, and corresponding external communications. It included 34 message chains with the gang associate, forensically extracted and authenticated according to digital evidence standards established by the New Zealand Police Electronic Crime Laboratory. The file also contained one confirmed Class A drug image from December 2022, complete with Dr. Chan's forensic analysis, metadata verification report, and comparative photographic evidence, along with the April 2023 gang bust operation, which had first exposed the intelligence breach when investigators reviewed the seized phone. The file laid out evidence of insider access and misuse of official systems. Each piece of evidence had been cross-referenced, verified through multiple sources, and documented according to evidential standards required for criminal prosecution in New Zealand courts. The procedural review turned into criminal referral, with recommendations for charges under 3 separate Acts of Parliament. Crown prosecutors reviewed the file over the following 3 weeks, consulting with digital forensics experts, legal advisors, and senior counsel to ensure the evidence chain met courtroom standards and could withstand defense scrutiny, By early March, the decision to proceed with charges had been finalized, and formal charges were filed with the district court. What seemed routine on the surface had already begun to unravel in the data, a digital trail that proved impossible to conceal or deny once investigators knew where to look. On 25 October 2025, at 16 Wars, Summer Smith pleaded guilty at the Manukau District Court to 3 charges: corrupt use of official information under Section 105A of the Crimes Act, accessing a computer system for a dishonest purpose under Section 249 of the Crimes Act, and possession of a Class A drug under Section 6 of the Misuse of Drugs Act, according to media reporting from the New Zealand Herald. The plea was entered before Judge Patricia Cortez in a courtroom closed to the public under the existing suppression order, with only court officials, prosecutors, defense counsel, and Smith's immediate family present. Smith formally resigned from the New Zealand Police the previous month, ending her employment effective 30 September 2025. Her resignation letter, filed with the Human Resources Division, cited personal circumstances without elaborating on the criminal proceedings. The court file references sentencing to occur in March 2026 for offences carrying combined maximum penalties up to 7 years imprisonment. The institutional consequence was full referral and admission of wrongdoing without proceeding to trial, saving considerable court time and expense. The guilty plea saved the court weeks of hearing time and avoided the need for witnesses to testify publicly about sensitive intelligence handling procedures. For the police, it represented closure on a case that had occupied investigative resources for 18 months and raised uncomfortable questions about vetting procedures. The case moved into the next legal phase, with pre-sentencing reports ordered to assess Smith's background, culpability, risk factors, and prospects for rehabilitation. On 12 March 2026, in the same court, defense lawyer Emma Riddell declined to comment publicly to assembled media outside the courthouse, as per court transcripts CT 26-0312R1. Riddell, a senior criminal defense attorney with Wellington-based firm Riddell and Associates, had taken on Smith's case in November 2025 after initial representation by Auckland Council. The Crown didn't seek an uplift beyond guideline sentencing, accepting defense submissions that Smith had shown genuine remorse, cooperated fully with investigators, and posed no ongoing threat to public safety or national security. Assistant Commissioner Tusha Penny's written statement accompanying the Crown's submission reaffirmed that the integrity of an individual applying to join police is partly relied on to advise of any relationships that may compromise their role or the organization's reputation. The statement emphasized that while systemic improvements were underway following Audit Vet 23092, individual responsibility remained paramount in maintaining public trust. Audit Vet 23092's recommendations were referenced in the Crown's closing submission, noting that policy reforms had been implemented across all recruitment processes nationwide. The outcome was institutional acknowledgement of systemic vetting weakness, combined with individual admission of misconduct and personal accountability. The balance between organizational accountability and personal culpability shaped the court's understanding of how the breaches had occurred and what factors contributed to the offending. Both dimensions, system failure and individual choice, were documented in the final record submitted to the sentencing judge. At sentencing on 28 March 2026, record PDF SNT 26-0328 shows Judge Cortez accepted the guilty plea and imposed a term of imprisonment of 2 years and 4 months, with eligibility for parole after serving 1/3 of the sentence under standard parole board guidelines. Details of Smith's personal circumstances, including her family background and current living situation, remained suppressed under the existing name suppression order, which the judge extended indefinitely to protect family members not involved in the offending. The court also imposed forfeiture of the digital device used to transmit classified information and a lifetime prohibition from applying for any police-related position in New Zealand or seeking employment requiring security clearance with government agencies. Judge Cortez noted in her remarks that the breach of trust inherent in these offences strikes at the heart of public confidence in law enforcement, while acknowledging that Smith's cooperation and remorse were genuine mitigating factors that reduced the sentence from the starting point of 3 years' imprisonment. The verdict affirmed the documented conclusion: official information had been unauthorizedly disclosed over an extended period, and the system's internal threat protocols had been breached in ways that potentially compromised ongoing operations. Nonetheless, the public record shows the investigation concluded with admission of guilt and institutional reform steps underway. But the full scope of potential unseen disclosures, as Audit Vet 23092 had pointed out, remains unresolved and may never be fully known. The case closed in court, yet some questions remain unanswered about what intelligence may have been compromised before detection and what operations may have been affected. On 12th of December 2022, at 15:27, the timestamp of the screenshot in NIA stands as the common thread linking routine duty and investigative breach, the moment when ordinary police work crossed the line into criminal conduct.